What if I told you that the world's largest island, covered in ice and home to just 57,000 people, sits at the center of a military chess game between superpowers? Greenland isn't just a frozen wasteland. It's the strategic key that could determine who controls the North Atlantic and, potentially, the outcome of any future global conflict. The geography that changes everything. Greenland's location makes it one of the most strategically important places on Earth. It sits directly between North America and Europe, right at the intersection of three continents. But here's what really matters. Greenland straddles something called the GIUK Gap, a maritime passage between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. This gap is the only route connecting the Arctic Ocean to the Atlantic, making it a choke point that controls access to the entire North Atlantic. And there's more. The shortest path for a Russian ballistic missile to reach the United States isn't over the Pacific. It's directly over Greenland and the North Pole. That's why the U.S. built Pituffik Space Base in northwest Greenland, housing early warning systems that scan the Arctic for incoming missiles 24/7. The weather war nobody talks about. During World War II, after Denmark fell to Nazi Germany in 1940, Greenland became strategically critical overnight. The Allies and the Nazis fought a secret weather war in the Arctic. Both sides desperately needed weather data from Greenland because North Atlantic weather patterns move west to east, determining everything from bombing runs over Europe to the safety of supply convoys crossing the Atlantic. The U.S. established numerous military facilities across Greenland, and hundreds of American soldiers were stationed at a remote mining town called Ivitut. They weren't there for the scenery. They were protecting the world's largest cryolite mine, a mineral absolutely essential for smelting aluminum to build warplanes. Without that mine, the Allied air war would have been crippled. Cold War fortress under the ice. When the Cold War began, Greenland's importance exploded. In the early 1950s, the U.S. military transported 5,000 troops, 280,000 tons of supplies, and built the massive Thule Air Base, housing over 10,000 soldiers, nuclear missiles, and bomber squadrons. But the most bizarre project was Camp Century, a nuclear-powered military base built inside the ice sheet itself. Engineers dug deep trenches, covered them with snow, and created an underground city powered by a portable nuclear reactor. The stated purpose was research, but the real goal was Project Iceworm, a plan to deploy nuclear missiles that could move through tunnels beneath the ice, making them nearly impossible for the Soviets to target. The Submarine Game. Here's where it gets even more interesting. The GIUK gap isn't just important for missiles and aircraft. It's the critical barrier for submarine warfare. During the Cold War, Soviet nuclear submarines had to cross this gap to reach the Atlantic and threaten NATO reinforcements sailing to Europe. NATO forces turned the gap into an underwater surveillance network, tracking every submarine trying to slip through. Today, Russian submarine activity around the GIUK gap has returned to Cold War levels. In 2019, 10 Russian submarines left their bases for the largest drill since the Soviet era, specifically testing their ability to breach the gap undetected. And now there's a new player, China, which has declared itself a near-Arctic state and is investing heavily in Arctic infrastructure alongside Russia. The battle for the future. Greenland isn't just about military bases anymore. Climate change is melting Arctic ice, opening new shipping routes that could cut travel time between Asia and Europe by days compared to the Suez Canal. Greenland also sits on vast deposits of rare earth minerals, the critical materials needed for everything from smartphones and electric cars to advanced military equipment. China currently dominates rare earth production, and they've used that leverage to pressure other nations. Access to Greenland's minerals could break that monopoly. This is why in early 2026, geopolitical tensions over Greenland have intensified, with the U.S. shifting Greenland from European Command to Northern Command, recognizing it as a front line in great power competition. What it all means. Greenland's strategic value comes down to three things: geography, resources, and timing. It controls access to the North Atlantic, sits directly under the path of intercontinental missiles, and holds the natural resources that will power future militaries and economies. In any future conflict involving NATO, Russia, or China, Greenland won't just be important, it will be essential. The frozen island at the top of the world isn't a remote outpost. It's the strategic center of the Arctic, and whoever controls it holds a massive advantage in the new era of great power competition.